All right, guys. Welcome to the very last episode of the season. A little health update for y'all. Since last episode, I'm feeling a little bit more better now. I don't sound gross as I did when I did my previous episode. So, first of all, Rishi, you're a true one for having to edit that and having to hear me sound awful. But I still have some coughs here and there, but I do sound and feel a lot better. On to other news. I don't know why this always happens every time I do a final episode, because like back in 2022, when I did my season 1 episode, that's when I got the news about Pelé, who was Brazil's famous soccer player, or football, if you want to put it like that. And then I'm trying to remember, like when we did our mid-season, it was like the night before we got, or the night after we recorded that. That was when we got Rob Reiner's passing. And then last year, it was George Foreman. But the day that we're recording this, that's when we got the news about the great Chuck Norris, fellow Texan, just a really swell guy. My camp one time hosted the church that he used to be a part of. I don't think he hasn't been a part of that church since like the mid 2010s, but yeah, he was a very cool guy. I mean, everybody's made so much like Chuck Norris jokes and what else can you say? Like mannerisms and stuff like that. Like legit, I think it was around lunchtime. I watched it was Epic Rap Battles of History it was Chuck Norris versus Abe Lincoln. And yeah, it's surreal. In a weird way, I'm going to make this as a positive. So I could say this confidently to say that my dad has met Chuck Norris before I did.
Oh, wow.
Not like in real life. I mean, like in death is what I mean. So, but
well. I mean, it's still positive. Like exactly. Let me try to say you put a positive spin on it.
Yeah, but yeah, to the great man Chuck Norris, one, you were a living legend. And we are going to continue to make myths about you because even in death, why should that stop? You know what I mean?
He's like it's like we said, man. He's alive, bro. He's up there celebrating everything. They're having a party up there right now. And the memes, I just can't you're gonna be hearing memes across, like if you're in a Christian group and whatnot, or the Christian circles, you're gonna keep hearing, oh, when Armageddon happens and the angels come down to fight against the devil, it's like, there you go, Norris is gonna be front and center.
Yeah. I texted it, Seuss, instead of like when the priests say, I call upon the archangels, Michael, Gabriel, and some say Raphael, though Raphael, I don't think it's mentioned in the Bible, but they're going to say, I call upon the archangels, Michael, Gabriel, and Chuck Norris. And
yeah, man, it's family, man.
Yeah. So, and it's weird because it kind of fits almost with what we're talking about today. This is our last episode of the season. I've never done an Easter theme episode before. And ever since, I would say since we did Interstellar, though I've talked about God and Jesus in the past, but never like in a full detailed like episode. I want to talk about like some movies that I like to watch around this time of the year. And surprisingly enough, last time Asus and I did our episode, we already stopped recording this, but I asked him like, what does he watch? Or I asked you, what did you watch? And apparently we watch the same things around this time of the year, which kind of like, it makes things a lot better. But one honorable mention I do want to say, because I want to talk about some other stuff before we go on break and then officially start with the first set of movies. But one thing I've been watching, and I watched it summer of 2024, and then I watched it around Easter time of last year, and then I kind of watched it again this year. It's and I showed it to some clips. And I mentioned this too. It's a movie called, well, it's not really a movie. It's a mini series. It's called Jesus of Nazareth, but edited together, it's a 6.5 hour long movie. And like Robert Powell, who played Jesus in that series, one, you don't see him until like, again, edited together the first hour and I believe 40 minutes of that thing, because it starts off with like the engagement, but I forgot the other word for it, the betrothal, Mary and Joseph. And then we even get the pregnancy and the birth of John the Baptist. Because remember, John the Baptist and Jesus were, I believe, second or third cousins. And plus, there's a lot more. It's even detailed in the book of John, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so we really don't get the full Robert Powell Jesus until the first hour and 40 minutes. And like when we get the baptism of Christ. But this miniseries, I'll go full into detail maybe next year because it'll be 50 years. So it'll be a lot more interesting to go full details in that. But I'll say right now, this miniseries had a full stack cast, like for people back then. I mean, it had like James Earl Jones, Donald Pleasance as like the wise man. Christopher Plummer played King Herod. who was it? Michael York played John the Baptist. I know some of my younger listeners aren't going to know any of this, and I don't care. um, but I know a lot of my older listeners will know some of these actors. Olivia Hussey played the Virgin Mary. Just a whole stack of cast. Who was it that played Pilate again? That you really
Rob Steiger.
Rob Steiger, yes. Peter Ustinov, who played the Herod the Great. Yeah, just a whole. It's a stacked cast, but this was almost like oh man, it's like the Sergio Leone of biblical film or biblical stories because this was filmed in Italy, shot by an Italian, and a lot of the background actors were Italian folks. Same thing with like, if y'all don't know what I mean, Sergio Leone, who directed some of the greatest westerns of all time, to get Western audiences to actually watch them, the main stars were American, but majority of like the supporting and background actors were Italian. And none of them actually spoke English. So when you watch some of like the Fistful of Dollars series and stuff like that, you can look at the lips and realize that the dubbing is off. But yeah, they had to find like folks to help with some of the translation, but also to figure out like what translation could we use that kind of fits the mouths, some of these actors that don't even speak English. It always like, I know we're going off topic, but always like intrigues me how like Sergio Leone and Clint Eastwood didn't even speak each other's languages, but yet they still made some of the greatest films of all time. I believe Eli Wallach and Sergio Leone spoke French. So they spoke French to each other, which I guess came in handy. I don't know how Eli Wallach or Sergio Leone learned French, but that came in handy. But I know, but y'all should give those a chance. Jesus has introduced me to one of the greats, and plus Tarantino, based most of his movies off of those things.
I wanted to add just a little quick thing. On top of that, Rod Steiger, who we just mentioned, plays Pilate in this miniseries. He actually was also hired by Leone to be a character forefront, I believe. I'm trying to remember his name, but I'll be honest. It's the one movie out of the 4 Westerns that he made, or I had to say 5 Westerns. It's like the last one, and it's not as well memorable as the previous 4, but it's from A Fistful of Dynamite, or sometimes it's translated to Duck You Sucker. So, I mean, that's how I first got introduced to Rod. And, when you showed me the clips, I was like, hey, I know who this guy looks like.
Yeah. And then we're not to put you on the spot about this, but weren't y'all watching like a Jesus novella earlier today?
So since I've been like here with my parents currently actually are the ones watching it. Sometimes I overhear their conversations. And so like, even though I haven't actually seen the novella myself, it's just called Jesus. If anybody in the Mexican or Latino American sphere listening to this has not heard of it yet, I mean, it's been recently released on VIX. So it's a streaming service for Spanish or Latino stuff. So yeah, I mean, they have a lot of novellas recently of biblical stories. So all the way from Genesis to Moses to the Gospels. So my parents have been watching those. Anyway, Jesus has been the fourth center here. And yeah, I hear their conversations about, oh, this character and this such character. And sometimes I'm over here like trying to remember, okay, it's a novella, right? So a lot of times it's a dramatization of events. As we know, the actual story is, of course, real. It did happen. It's just novella like to dramatize things a bit more, just to keep an audience, right? So some characters I have never heard of before, and I, like to go back into the Gospels just to kind of make clear to my parents that, hey, this character didn't even exist or was never mentioned in the Word. So maybe you really shouldn't worry too much about that. From what I've heard in their conversations, it's a pretty overall good novella, regardless of all the added characters into it and such.
Yeah, and like going back to it, I don't even think I told you all this, but like Ian Holm is also in that Jesus of Nazareth. He plays a made-up character named Zara. He's one of the, I guess you could say, a scholar who works with the Pharisees. He's the one that convinced Judas, played by Ian McShane. Yeah, again, a lot of big names in this. And I'll probably go into it a lot more next year, but he's the one that convinces Judas to betray Jesus, or at least tricks Judas to betray Jesus. But yeah, obviously, that wasn't a character in the Bible. They created for the show specifically. Or movie, it just depends on how y'all want to call it. Like when I talk about It 1990, some people will call it a miniseries, but when you edit it together, it's a 3.5 hour long film. It just varies. And I mean, like, it's no surprise most Italian films can actually last hours.
Mm-hmm.
So Take it how you leave it. But I do recommend y'all giving it a watch. I know The Chosen next season, though I don't know when it comes out, if it's either coming out this year or next year, it's going to go into the crucifixion. And I don't know what Dallas Jenkins is going to do to fit the events of 2 days into 8 episodes, because that's usually how the seasons go by. But he's very detailed and specific. So it's going to be a lot. And then he said the last, like, Chosen Anything, which is a movie he's already confirmed that it's going to be the resurrection for 2027. So we'll see. And then another one I randomly remember is The Miracle Maker. I think that's what it's called. And it's one of those stop motion, claymation kind of stories with, obviously, with Jesus. Is an entirely British cast. One of them being played, and we're going to talk about him again later on, is Ralph Fiennes, who we all know plays Voldemort in Harry Potter. He voices Jesus in this animated movie. It's a really great movie. Y'all should check it out. A really great cast. There's more story that involves Jairus' daughter. If y'all don't know, Jairus is the man that went to Jesus and it's like, my daughter is sick and dying. I need you to come. And yeah, there's a lot more with Jairus and his daughter. I think Jairus was played by not John Hurt. Oh man, I'm trying to remember his name. He passed away not too long ago, like 2022. William Hurt. Thank you. I think God was giving me the answer. Yeah, no, William Hurt. And it's actually really cool. There's a part where, like, during the crucifixion, where, like, he's breaking down because he's like, dude, this man, why are they killing him? He saved my daughter, or he brought my daughter back. So, yeah, a very good watch. I know that it's hard when you watch a film about Jesus, and some of it could be fictionalized. A lot of it could be fictionalized. Last year, for the first time, I saw The Last Temptations of Christ. And understandably, now I know why a lot of Christians back then were angry. I wasn't angry, but I did understand. I mean, it was directed well because it's Martin Scorsese, and Willem Dafoe does an okay job as Jesus. It's just that, like, I mean, when you watch it, I mean, let's be honest. Yes, there is nudity involved, especially when it came to Mary Magdalene. And then supposedly, like, he marries Mary Magdalene, and then eventually Mary and Martha of Bethany, which were the sisters of Lazarus. But just a spoiler alert, I'm just gonna say it, just whatever. It didn't really happen. That was considered like the last temptation of, like, Jesus wanted to come off the cross and have a life, but full of regret, he's back on that cross and realized it never happened because he overcame that. Like, I understand what they were going with, but again, you gotta also, like, put it together that nobody doesn't want to imagine Jesus doing any of that, because obviously it didn't happen. But I was going to say it humanized Jesus a little bit too much.
I want to say something as in, like, in no ways am I saying what I'm going to say right now is not as a way to defend the director's intention with the film. It's more of, or even to sound sacrilegious, because I mean, that's not what we're trying to be here. But I mean, you want to think sometimes, like, if you do see this film, anyone who is still on the fence about it, or just refuses to not watch it, I mean, if you end up seeing a clip about it or whatnot, it's, I guess what the director intended was for you to kind of just have a glimpse of what is possibly what Jesus could have experienced when he was being tempted for those 40 days and nights. Again, that's not the point, at least in the film. That's not how it really looks like. It's just more of, I mean, he became flesh, right? So as flesh, he's a human. He potentially may have had to feel these kind of temptations. Not that it didn't happen, and not that he was obviously pure. He was not going to intend in these indulgences that we as humanity can sometimes choose to go through. But I mean, yeah, like, I can see it that way as, it's not this isn't truth, this isn't what happened. It's more of a what if kind of scenario, where if you put yourself in his shoes, when he lived and walked on this earth, what could have potentially gone on in his head? What could the devil have tried to beat him? Especially when he kept praying, when he had prayed his heart and soul to his Father in the garden while all the disciples were asleep. It's like at that moment he was saying, well, I don't know if I can do this. You know what I mean? So, but he knows his purpose was to fulfill the will, fulfill the prophets and all the stuff that had happened. So he was ready for it. I'm not saying he wasn't. I'm just saying, just by reading a little bit and having a little bit of a little ounce of stretching the imagination, makes you ponder.
Yeah. Again, it's a Scorsese, but he did direct another, in my words, a good Christian film called Silence. I think y'all should check that one out. One of his most underrated films. And then, I thought about doing a movie of this, but due to things that came into light last year, it's now more of a difficult situation because I'll talk about it now in case y'all ever want to check it out. But I'm just going to say off the bat, it does involve Michael Tate. And if you know the story, Michael Tate has been involved into some heat last year. I'm not going to get into specifics, but if you know, you know. But we saw this play back like when we were young called Hero the Rock Opera, and it's basically taking the story of Jesus, putting it in their form modern time, like 2000s. And again, I know some people can hear it as heresy or blasphemy, but hear me out and then take it as you leave it. Right when I say if y'all don't want to watch it, that's fine. I understand the purpose of it, but to my point, it does take like the context of Jesus in modern times, the story, but it has some pretty good songs. And I was gonna say if I was to do this, I would like change a lot more of it. Keep some of the songs in there, but make it less because it does like invoke a kind of like social justice kind of a thing that modern, and I mean like modern as in like the 2020s audience would like very back up. And when you watch it as if you were like in 2005, 3, 4, 5, whenever this came out. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting play. Again, go check it out. It's literally like you can find it on YouTube for free before they take it down after me saying this. But yeah, it's interesting. Again, I know Michael Tate's very controversial right now, and I don't blame anybody for that. And even I have like some inner thoughts on like, if I was to do this movie, should I, given the fact that like he plays Jesus in the play? But it's up to my moral judgment at this point. And if I do, then I'll just say, look, Michael Tate isn't really the story, it's Jesus. And I know it might be hard to separate what he did in this art form because I've had problems with that so many times. But again, like I'm not going to make you watch the movie if you don't feel comfortable, especially like I know a lot of people don't like Jesus stories or actors portraying Jesus because they feel like it does disservice to him or like it does break a commandment. You shouldn't put an image of God. For me personally, you have to remind yourself that these actors are not Jesus. They're playing him. But I am guilty of this. I'll admit that when we pray, sometimes we put that image in of like who Jesus is, especially in like paintings and stuff. So I'm not perfect. I know that. And I do that sometimes. But to remind ourselves that we can't think of what Jesus is going to look like. The only way for us to find out is to meet him face to face when our time has come, hoping he says, well done, my good and faithful servant. And not, depart from me, I never knew you. The words we don't want to hear. But it's what I learned from our friend Nate's pastor when he used to do Chi Alpha. It says those words shouldn't frighten you, should motivate you when you want to hear the other words, which is, well done, my good and faithful servant. But in the end, I don't think too much of an issue of actors playing Jesus, as long as we have to make it clear that they're not Jesus. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people need a visual to kind of see things. If you do have Christians, again, don't know who they are per se, but you do have Christians out there, believers, who can read or sometimes have a deficit. So sometimes like they're it's not that they're not hungry to read the word, it's that they just can't. Like, they can't. So sometimes we have these as a means to actually share the gospel, to share the word to them. And sometimes it goes to these films. There's plenty of films out there for anybody who, let's say, if you don't like what I want to call the Americanized way of portraying Jesus, if you don't like that kind of thing, then there's a whole bunch of other films out there from different countries or even just English speaking films that don't even have Jesus in that Americanized fashion that we're so used to seeing in images out there. So it's always like a pick and choose kind of thing for yourself. Such as long as you're not watching a film that literally sacrileges to the entire story. I mean, sorry, I'm going to put it on the bus, but I mean, you had Noah. So that was just, I don't know, a whole nother thing. But yeah, avoid those kind of films.
Yeah. We're just I just wanted to bring all that up. And if you guys are ever interested, now I won't like hold it against y'all if y'all do end up watching Last Temptation of Christ. Just know that like, if you get angry, I try to warn y'all, but in the end, like I can appreciate what Scorsese was trying to do in the directing style. Especially because like they even said in the beginning, because it's based off a book, that even the book mentions that these are all fictional tellings. It's just that when you put fictional and Jesus in the same sentence, it triggers a lot of folks. But in the end, like if y'all watch it, I'm just giving y'all that warning, y'all. And I love Willem Dafoe. He's such an amazing actor. He needs an Oscar already. And I love Martin Scorsese. And again, y'all should check out Silence. It's a really good, in my form, a Christian film, even though it's not under any Christian company. It's Christian towards like inner conflict is what I would say. But that's all I got for now. Unless you have anything to add on before we break.
No, actually, I don't think I have anything else. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna break real quick, and we'll be right back. And we are back. So I was trying to figure out because when again I talked to literally we finished the Friday episode, which by the way did not even come close to tying the record for the Halloween episode. Like again, I was surprised that we watch actually the same movies that we watch. Maybe not. Maybe I have one extra that we're going to talk about, but a few of them that we watch, we literally watch the same movies around this time of the year. And I was trying to figure out like how we're going to do this because one movie has a similar plot of an animated movie that we're going to talk about, but then also has an actor of another movie that we're going to talk about. And I was like, where do I section this? And Asus came up with the idea that we'll just talk about Old Testament because you got to remember Old Testament around this time is where Passover and all that was starting, or the reason behind Passover, and then New Testament. So I want to save one movie for its own subject because I was just watching it earlier today too. But anyway, so let's start off with the animated movie because it's the shortest. And I want to talk about it because it's been a year since Val Kilmer passed away. But it's The Prince of Egypt, which is one of my favorite animated movies of all time. The animation, which man, we got to go back. We got to go back to that animation, y'all. Like I have nothing against that 3D animation stuff like that, but that animation I missed the most of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, yeah, we got to go back to that. Secondly,
it's the perfect blend of animation, man. Like it's the perfect blend. It's like if you thought 2D could not actually get any dimension higher, no, like you haven't seen The Prince of Egypt.
That's true. Yeah. And look, The Prince of Egypt, I remember when I watched it really young and one of my kids, she was, again, she's not my kid, she's my camp kid, but she's going to go past the part where it's like, after Moses had the dream, it was the dream of when the babies were thrown in the Nile. I understand why, because it's very dark for it's supposed to be a kids or a family movie. Though just because it's an animated movie doesn't mean it's a kids movie. It could be a movie for all. Remember, you're talking to the guy who put K-pop Demon Hunter in his top 5 favorite films of 2025. When he doesn't like K-pop and stuff like that, but it's a great animated film. If you have never seen it, I think it's like on Peacock or maybe Amazon, but it has a very stellar cast, like Val Kilmer being one of them, Ray Fiennes, who plays Ramesses. Who was it? Patrick Stewart played the Pharaoh, or before Ramesses. Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah. I mean, you still have I can't remember. What was it? Steve Martin was Hotep. I don't know if you mentioned that already.
No, I haven't.
Miriam was played by Sandra Bullock, but also Brenda Chapman, for that matter.
What did Brenda Chapman do?
Brenda Chapman was playing Miriam, but
she did the singing voice. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting. I'm always confusing. Like when you're watching an animated, or when you're just watching a musical animated, and you're like, oh yeah, she was played like this person was played by this actor, and it's like, well, yeah, but the song is not the same, so they'll probably get somebody else.
No, yeah. So it's common in a lot of specifically animated musicals. Like if you watch Mulan, yes, who was it? Ming, the actress who actually played Mulan. I know she was in. She was also in Boba Fett.
She just recently was in Book of Boba Fett. Yeah, I'm just trying to remember her name.
But her and B.D. Wong, who played Shen, yes, they voiced. But Leah Salonga and believe it or not, Donny Osmond did the singing voices.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but but it's pretty common. But it does have good music. Obviously, like the most famous ones were the top 3 most famous ones Now it was like every time I say that, I think of the other song and then the other song. It's like they're all great in their own way. Like there's literally no bad song. Oh, Donald Glover, or is it Danny Glover?
Are you talking from the movie itself or
Yeah,
the?
yeah.
So in the movie, it should have been Donald Glover
Is it Donald Glover or
in the
Danny
movie.
or
Yeah.
because yeah, I'm trying to
Wait a
remember.
minute.
It's the Jess. He plays Jethro, father-in-law of Moses.
Right.
I think it's
Yeah,
Danny Glover.
sorry, it is Danny Glover, not Donald
Okay,
Glover.
Donald Glover is Childish Gambino,
Yeah.
but anyway, to my point, because I just thought of him when I was thinking Heaven's Light, but they're all really good. You get what I mean? I don't think there's really a bad or forgettable song, but like the ones I listen to the most are Playing with the Big Boys Now, because come on. What was it? Deliver Us, which is the beginning of the song. Because man, I don't know why, but that woman, whoever voiced the singing voice of Moses' mother, she did not need to go hard on that last note. But
I don't think I'll be honest with you. I don't think anybody had to go hard in this film. But hey, man, this is like we went over 9,000 right here.
yeah, that, and then I think really my most famous, not famous, but my most favorite one is the Plague Song, because it's like a
Yes.
villain. It's like a villain song, but not really. Like Playing with the Big Boys is definitely a villain song, but this one is more like a confliction, because literally what does the verse say? Once I call you brother, man, I'm already forgetting it, but like when you go to Ramesses' part, it's like, you who I call brother, how you have come to hate me so? Because this is already like Moses and Ramesses grew up as brothers, and now they're conflicting with each other. Oh, and now I remember, it's once I called you brother, once I had the chance to make you laugh, it's all I ever wanted. Which that part, all I ever wanted, goes back to all I ever wanted when Moses found out who he really was. But and it's interesting how it's not just like a random song. You get what I mean? Like they fit well
Mhm.
with the music. Like when you talk about Heaven's Light with Jethro, he's talking about like, all of this is God. I'm not trying to sound like James Earl Jones all of a sudden. Everything the light touches, it belongs to God. Which, by the way, if James Earl Jones hadn't died and they casted him to play the voice of God in the Prince of Egypt remake, because they've been planning that for a while, I would have been sold big time. But anyway, it's literally like, what is Heaven's Light? And then even like, getting the blessing from Jethro when, him and his wife Sephora, when, Moses and his soon to be wife Sephora, even though they've had that history in the past, they soon to grow to each other and, giving the blessing, especially because in the beginning, remember Moses, after fleeing Egypt, he's like, I don't deserve to be an honored guest here in a way. I did a lot of terrible things. And you get what I mean? And Jethro's like, well, you helped each and every one of my daughters, you helped Sephora escape Egypt, and you helped my three youngest daughters. Though I think Jethro had, I think in the Bible it said, I think he had like 10 daughters, but I don't remember too much. But either way, he's like, you help my kids. You don't think that's like not worthy and being honored tonight? And it's a very interesting take. It's like Danny Glover only had that amount of time on the Prince of Egypt. I don't even call it screen time because it wasn't live action. But dude, he made a lasting impact for
Mhm.
the rest of that film. Which, man, I know, because again, I know it's based off the Bible, but you don't get good script writing nowadays.
Facts.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember when we were watching this, first time I watched it, I think it was like 8 at the elementary school that we went, even though I know you went a lot later in life when we first met. But when I first watched it, it was like literally like when me and my friend Kevin, I think we were like 8 years old, and we were talking about the story of Moses, and they showed us the Prince of Egypt. And man, I convinced my grandma to get me that, which I'm surprised wasn't that difficult, considering I know she was a Jehovah's Witness, and they have like, I think they have specific rules when it comes to like Bible movies and stuff like that. So y'all could correct me if I'm wrong. But no, my cousin and her and I, we would definitely like watching that, The Prince of Egypt. But do you remember when you actually got introduced to this?
Yeah, actually, funny enough, it was at school. I don't remember if it was sixth grade or seventh grade when one of our teachers, I think in my homeroom class, if you remember that time where I think like the end of the day or okay, so our homeroom class we had a science teacher, and I think he was able to put the movie on for us. It was like the last couple of weeks before school was over because we had just finished standardized testing. And we kind of already went through all the majority of the subject material. So I mean, we I guess they could get away with it here and there. And yeah, I mean, it was, of course it would be approved. You know what? Why wouldn't it be? So yeah, like around sixth, seventh I think it was sixth or seventh grade is when I actually finally got to see it for the first time, and man, that was something. And I didn't even think. I'll be honest with you, that was one of the very first musicals or films that got me into musicals because I didn't know that something like that could even be done. Possibly, I mean, yeah. Well, you could say like, oh, all the Disney films were that, right? But like when you were young, you don't really listen much. Like your brain is firing on all cylinders, especially if you're like ADHD or something, and you're watching a Disney movie, you like it, and they have the songs here and there, and you'll sing to them, but like they don't really mean anything to you growing up. But this one, it was like the first time I actually got to sit down and listen and actually pay attention to what they were saying through the songs. And it honestly made me like so happy to even read the Bible and to keep reading them more because it was like, hey, yo, I can watch this as a companion piece.
Yeah. So it's the music. I know that they did a stage musical. I don't think it's like touring or anything. I think it's because some people weren't a huge fan of it because it's like, trying to create a musical based off of a movie, when the movie came first, it's kind of difficult. Now, remaking this one, I entirely wouldn't be too harsh on it as long as like they don't steer too far away from the original source material. But again, it's the Bible. The reason why I like watching it around this time, and I think it's just because of like it's the music. I don't know, it just feels like a good time to watch it because remember, if you know the story, you know that when Moses freed the Israelites out of Egypt and all of that, they celebrate what is called the Passover. Passover originated when now correct me if I'm wrong, when the 10th plague was happening, which is the angel of death was taking away the firstborn sons. The Jews or the Israelites, depending on what you will refer to them as back then, they sacrificed their lambs and smeared the blood of the lambs on the door. Please don't take me down for this, YouTube, for saying that, but they would smear the blood of the lambs on the door. And when the angel of death came, they know that's not the house to go to. So the angel passed over those houses. So that's why they call it Passover. They celebrate, the moment where their lives were spared and they got to leave Egypt. And again, it's not very much of a kid friendly movie because you do see the deaths of, the kids of Egypt, especially like at the end when like Ramesses, he's like, y'all can leave. But he didn't even want to look at Moses because he obviously blames Moses for that. Because I would understand, even though like, yes, Ramesses should have released him, but even in the Bible, it says, his heart was hardened and God caused his heart to be hardened. It's like, when you don't believe in God or even worship the same God and you still have this humanistic view, you got to blame somebody, even if it's not the God you worship. Like he blamed Moses for that, for the death of his son. And even Moses was like trying to tell him, look, you have this one shot to, free all the Israelites. If not, something worse is going to happen. And even says, think of your son. And that's the moment where I was like, oh, we're going there. We're actually going to go there. But yeah, it's dark for an animated film, but what Guillermo del Toro said, animated films, even though he was talking about his own movie, animated films aren't really a kid's film. There can be a family film. But speaking of Moses, the other film I want to talk about, unless you got any last things to say about the Prince of Egypt.
I mean, overall, I would say it's kind of like one of those little. I can't say. I mean, what I would say is it's like if the Ten Commandments, that I guess is probably the next film that we're going to talk about, probably had already happened about like 50 years prior almost to the point of that release of Prince of Egypt. You're sitting there going, well, no other film can really top that. And then you have this film that's animated. And again, animation is still considered to this day by the industry to just be more like a kid's thing. It's a medium, man, just like you said prior. Anybody can enjoy this. There's plenty of animation out there that is for mature adults to young adults to kids of 4 by 6, and like your family is watching it with you growing up. I mean, yeah, it's a medium we use for anything. And so for an animation, for that, first of all, to be in animated form, to kind of tell you, okay, like we're gonna give you the Ten Commandments again, but we're switching it up. We're making a little bit more Y2K kind of spin on it for for all the audience out there who's into musicals, especially. It's got the music and it's got a stellar cast of people, just like the Ten Commandments did all those years back. So it's almost like if you really like to see, if you ask somebody like me or Gilbert, which film, if you're ready for Passover and you just want to, I don't know, or you've never seen or read the Bible and you really just want to see a visual version of it, then honestly, we're going to tell you. Well, most likely, he and I are going to say we like to stand a little bit more towards the Prince of Egypt, but we also like Ten Commandments. So maybe you should watch both, and they probably serve as a companion piece to one another. So yeah, that's my bit.
Yeah, I will say like if you're interested, there is a prequel film about Joseph,
Yes, was it
the coat of many
Joseph
colors.
and the purple coat?
Yeah, something like that. You should check it out. I think it's also on Peacock. Peacock coming in clutch today, actually. Y'all should sponsor me.
These are free, right? Or is this more like
I don't know. I think it depends on which plan you
I
have.
don't care about the ads, honestly. Like if I'm watching ads, it's fine. But like, I guess it just depends like how much am I paying?
I don't know. We can't like I don't want to say like how we're paying this. We are paying this, guys.
Mhm.
But I don't want to get too much because in case Peacock contacts us and they're like, yeah, you can't do that. But I think it's the basic plan we have.
Got it.
Yeah. But yeah, y'all should check it out. And Peacock, if y'all want to sponsor me, I'm just saying. I'm just kidding. But yeah. But speaking of Moses again, we're gonna talk about the Ten Commandments. It's first of all, this is that one movie. Anybody that talks about like what should have won Best Picture, people will say one of them being the Ten Commandments. It didn't win Best Picture, or I don't even think it won Best Director, or at least I think it did. But I think because it's the movie, it lost to I think Around the World in 80 Days or The Greatest Show. I gotta look it up. But both Around the World in 80 Days. And no, I'm not talking about the Jackie Chan version. There was a 1950s version, and then there was one called The Greatest Show on Earth. One of those two beat out the Ten Commandments for Best Picture, and both are considered like the top worst wins of Best Picture. Like I'm talking like people even hating it more than Crash and Shakespeare in Love.
Oh, I gotta say, man, remember this is it's humanity. The Earth likes to just say, "Well, the Ten Commandments is fantastic. It's great. It got nominated for like 7 Oscars or something, but we can't have that representation in our household, so we're gonna give it to this film over here." I'm like, no, I mean that's how the world works, unfortunately.
Yeah, but regardless, y'all should check it out. ABC usually airs it, I think, around every Good Friday. If not, I remember last year it was like the Friday before the Good Friday they aired it. But it kills up, I kid you not, it kills up about 6 hours. And that's counting commercials and stuff like that because this movie has an intermission.
That's a cakewalk. Mile, it's a cakewalk, my guys. You haven't seen Napoleon yet. I'm not talking about Ridley Scott's. I'm talking about something from like 1912 or 19 whatever. That was like I think maybe 9 hours long. And
yeah, but it's a good movie. Still holds up, but it's a lot more detailed. I'm trying to think what it. So basically, like it starts off usual. It starts off with what like the order to carry out to throw all the or at least execute all the firstborn sons, the Israelites. Because if y'all don't know the story, the Pharaoh feared an uprising, which eventually did happen, but he feared an uprising. So to make sure there is no uprising, all the firstborn sons of the Israelites were executed. Like all the ones that at least under the age of like 2 or 3. And Moses' mother, we know the story, creates a basket, puts him in a basket, floats it on top of the river, the Nile River. Moses is found by the princess of Egypt. I think in the Bible it says the daughter of the Pharaoh. So it's always hard to like decipher like the actual pharaohs of Egypt because I don't even think they mention Ramesses in the Bible. But
no, remember, I think I think historians have kind of like pinpointed it as Ramses II as the Ramses of the or as the Pharaoh in the Bible.
Yeah, I believe so too. Yeah. So, and other thing is that like the Prince of Egypt, though I love it, they make it seem like they actually did grow up as brothers because they shared the same because it was Pharaoh's mother and father. But this was actually, I think, Pharaoh's sister was the one that found him. So they're actually cousins. And dude, I remember like my younger sister was crushing over Yul Brenner because
That's crazy.
Hey, Yul Brenner was good looking back then, okay? And
No. I'm not saying anything wrong about that. I'm just saying that's crazy. Like, hey, for a guy that when your sister and y'all were watching it for the first time, I mean, that guy might have passed away probably years before all that. So that's just wild. It still kind of brings the same things.
No, but like, oh my gosh, I'll mention this now because I'll probably forget about it. But I remember when the remake of Ben-Hur was coming out, and I was like, I posted on Facebook. I was like, I don't get why they're remaking a Ben-Hur. The classic should say the classic, which I'm right. But I remember my tia, my grandma's younger sister, I swear I could just imagine her voice when she texted this. She said, "Yeah, Charlton Heston, muy guapo." which which means Charlton Heston was very handsome, which he was. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, so Charlton Heston, going back to it, this was his one of only two biblical proportion films. I think I haven't really looked into his full filmography, other than those two films and The Planet of the Apes. It's very scale for a 1950s film that was shot on studio, not on location.
Hmm.
But it's still pretty good. It's still a good film. Legit. I think it's 60 years old this year because I think it came out in 1956 or 70, which means people,
Yeah, that looks to be about right. That's 70 years old.
which means people still watch it, which tells you enough, really. It's like if ABC continues doing this, it's like a younger generation. I'm not even talking about Gen Alpha. I don't want to say I gave up on them already, but Gen Beta, I think there's hope for them. But the fact that you now even Gen Alpha and even Gen Beta in the future are going to be watching this, hopefully with their grandparents. I don't know, hopefully their parents as well. To my point, there's still a younger generation watching this movie.
You could even add to the fourth that it's probably at this point. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if it's considered to be the second most viewed film of all time, with the first being The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a really good movie. There are some things that are excluded, but especially like the plague. I think it's like budget wise, and the fact that this, like, despite this film being so upscale for its time, they're still, they're not miracle makers. There's still not a lot of things they can do. You can't get like just random frogs out of nowhere. And obviously CGI wasn't invented yet. And, the hellstorms and the darkness and stuff like that. Yes, I get that. But in the end, even if you excluded those, they've mentioned it. It's a captivating story. Yeah. I'm trying to think what else I could think of. But I mean, the big kisser on this, and I don't mean to meet, like, in the movie before Moses has to go off, or before Moses was exiled out of Egypt, he was in a relationship with, I think, Netiri. I think that's what her name was, who would eventually become the wife of Ramesses II. But how they mention is basically like Netiri was kind of like forced to marry Ramesses, and she did bore a son. But it's like death of the son. You can see like the reaction of Yul Brynner as Ramesses saying, like, Moses, like, can you stop this now? I want to save my son. And that the last plague, it's like you don't see all the deaths, but you can hear the scream, especially like if you going back to the Prince of Egypt, you hear the screams and the cries of all the parents of Egypt. But there's something more haunting and the Ten Commandments when the plague is happening at that moment. It's captivating. I mean, Cecil B. DeMille was a great director.
Now that I think about it, you think that that God for that plague decided to do a solar eclipse?
You see, that's tough.
Throughout. I mean, again, I can't say for sure, right? But I mean, you would think, right? Maybe yes. I mean, you had death come by and kill every firstborn of the child of the families that did not have the lamb's blood across the door. But I mean, maybe to save some trouble, because at this point, I mean, must have just died. If a lot of these firstborn children had died, these families would not know until most likely the next morning. And so, if anything, to make things even, I guess, smooth, or what, I don't know how to explain it. Maybe he did a solar eclipse, made everything dark so that everything could pass, let death do its thing, and then next morning, well, you had everybody here like freaking out. I don't know. There's something.
I mean, it's effective no matter what. If you're directing it either live action or animation, it's effective still. Like, like you don't need to see it like the parents scream and cry. Just hearing it, it's already effective enough. But I want to talk about the thing that I waited until now when we were talking about the Prince of Egypt. Both, and I really mean this, guys, both films really, really executed the parting of the Red Sea. I mean, like with the Prince of Egypt, I think they said it took 3 years for the animators to perfect it. That's 3 years that was literally like they took their time, and it was so great. That's why I say you can't rush stuff like this. And I don't know what they did with the Ten Commandments. They must have done like some drawing and stuff like that, but even then it looked pretty cool. And just like the visuals and stuff like that. I don't know, there's just something about the sets, and
they had to waste a lot of gallons of water, I heard.
Really?
Well, it's almost just like with Noah's Ark that was made in like the 20s. I think actually I think was also directed by Cecile DeMille, and they wasted a ton of water. And unfortunately, several like extras that were playing the all the humans that were drowning that didn't adhere to Noah's warnings. Yeah, I mean they wasted a ton of. It's like they were being what's it called when they water dunked.
Waterboarded.
That's the right. I don't think that's the right term, but you know what I mean. Like when if you, it's just getting weird. I'm sorry, it's getting a little weird. But if you have torture and when you're clothed up, they pour water on you. I'm trying to remember the term for that, but
Yeah,
I mean,
it's waterboarded.
there you go, waterboarded. It's like these four extras were waterboarded because they were dumped with gallons of water to mimic the actual flood. So I wouldn't put it past them if that's what he tried again. And he learned his mistake the first time, of course. But he's still, I mean, I'm sure the studio and still ended up wasting some pretty good amount of water.
Yeah, but I mean, look, no matter what, like especially when you talk about old Hollywood, there's gonna be a lot of behind the scenes stories that aren't really like the best things to hear. Wizard of Oz is definitely an example of that. But in the end, it's still a great film for 70 years. Just talking about it still blows my mind that it's been 70 years. Because I remember watching it the first time, I think back in like 2017. But I remember seeing a clip of it or two when I was like really, really young. I think I was like maybe 8 years old. And then through time, when I found out ABC Family's doing it again, that's when my mom tells me, oh, they do it every year. They've been doing it since like when they were kids, which is crazy.
No, Freeform.
Yeah.
But that's what it's called now, right? It's not ABC Family or whatever.
No, ABC, like the station.
It's
ABC.
still okay. So ABC is the one that told it. Okay.
Yeah, but it's still, again, if y'all haven't watched it yet, y'all should. Just because, like, I know people don't like watching old movies nowadays, and I have to say, y'all, like, watch old movies. They're like, it's not, if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't get some of the great classics we have now. I'm just saying.
Facts.
And yeah, and like I said, like, ladies, like the guys back then, y'all would crush a lot more with the guys back then than some of the guys now, than any of the Chris's now, if we're gonna be like that. It's also very interesting. Yul Brynner did this and The King and I, which he won his Oscar for. But yeah, no, it's a classic, guys. The effects, the settings, I mean, the way Egypt was portrayed. And I remember, man, like it's like the last scene where he throws the tablets. When he throws the tablets and the earth opens up. Dude, that gets me. Like that gets to me. But yeah, and like I said, if it wasn't for like the stories of Moses, we wouldn't get to the stories now. And there's so many stories in the Bible up until now, especially with the prophets. But we're gonna take another break right now because I want to talk about another Heston classic, and then we're gonna get to the big one later on. But we're gonna break now. All right, and we're back. So I just want to dive into this one quickly. I know I keep going back and forth in the break. It's just really so to give my voice a break. But anyway, we're going to talk about another good Charlton Heston classic, which is Ben-Hur. Ben-Hur was the first film to make the record of having the most Oscar wins. It has 11 Oscars. And so far, no film has been able to beat that. Only two other movies were able to tie it, which would be Titanic and The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, which Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, I'll definitely be talking about in 2028 for its 25th anniversary, if my podcast lasts that long. And also, Chris Connor, if you're listening to this, you're welcome to do that one because, one, come on, I would love to have you on the show. That's an old teacher of ours, but
I gotta share the podcast with her. I think I mentioned it to her that one time. Like I gotta bring it to her. Let her know, hey, in 2 years, gonna be making the Lord of the Rings anniversary podcast. So I'm thinking maybe you want to come on down, share some of your insight.
Yeah, but it's legit. I would say, me personally, it's not as a big epic proportion as the Ten Commandments is, but the most striking, I would say. I don't know how you feel about either or, but that's just me. But anyway, Ben-Hur is basically like story of he's a prince, a Judeo prince, I think that's what he is, who is sentenced to crime. Okay, it's been a while since I've seen it actually, but
same here.
If I can remember, like he takes the crime for his family and he becomes a slave. And throughout his journey, at one point throughout his journey, he comes face to face with Christ. Here's the thing: Jesus in this movie was made in 1959. The filmmakers were saying that, you know how we were talking about how like sometimes, you know, people have problems with actors portraying Jesus with seeing their faces. You don't see the face of Christ in this film, like not at all. But even without showing the face of Christ, there's so much of an impact there. So there's a scene where like Judah, he's being traded and he's chained, and all the Romans, because remember, the Roman Empire had been occupying from what is Rome to probably what is modern day India. They've conquered almost all the peninsula and the Mediterranean, and they were in charge of the trades. And when the Romans and the other slaves, you know, stopped to get some water, they were making Judah suffer. That's the name of the character, Judah Ben-Hur. They were making Judah suffer without drink by not giving him water. And, you know, Judah falls to his knees because he's like, this is the end for me. And he says, God, help me. And Jesus comes in, pours water over his head, and then, you know, has him drink. And people, they notice how interesting it is that, like, that water should have been gone when the moment and that was all poured over his head. But I'm serious, like, he's drinking, like, there's like gallons of water in there. I'm like, hey, he's drinking that Jesus water. It never ends. And both physically and metaphorically, it never ends. I mean, it's literally written, "Come taste God's water, and you'll never be thirsty again." But the Roman was like, "Hey, I said no water for him," and he sees Jesus, and like again, we only see the back of Jesus' head, but you see the face of the Roman that's like shocked. It's like I feel like I shouldn't like pick a fight with this guy because he's literally gonna get some knowledge from Jesus if he tries to. And he's like, okay, we're just going to proceed. But it's a really great movie. Our Oda, she was at first one point our principal, then she became our superintendent. But unfortunately, she's no longer with us. She's with the Lord now. But she was this is paying this for you.
Mm-hmm.
She was a huge fan of this movie. And my sister also showed me this movie too. But she really loved it. I think it was like her favorite movie of all time. But yeah, it's impactful. It is. And Charlton Heston won the Oscar for Best Actor for this movie. And like I said, it's one of those movies that's it's an intermission kind of a film. But you guys should, I always say you should give it a watch because it's such a great film to look at visually. And if you think about it, you don't get that many biblical epic films anymore. Like, I can't think of one modernly other than probably the next film we're going to talk about. But even then, it wasn't that grand of a scale because like when you watch movies that came out, like Bible movies that came out, or like, I mean, you were talking about Noah, but that's hardly a Bible movie, or even Exodus, which is also hardly a Bible movie. They're not biblically epic film. And what I mean by that is that like the way the cinematography and the editing looks makes you see how big the world really is. If y'all catch my drift, like going back to the Ten Commandments, and even like with the Prince of Egypt, like if you're crossing that sea, you realize like those walls had to have been hundreds of feet high because like you are legit walking on the ocean floor. But that's what I mean by we don't get that many biblical epic films. And maybe that's something I should take interest in.
It's something that has to come back. I mean, yeah, we were America during 20s or after the Great Depression was already going right back into a more family oriented. Let's go back to the kind of let's bring these religious outlook again. And I mean, yeah, the industry was listening and they say, yeah, let's make it. Let's do more here and there. And there's a lot of biblical films that we won't even get into that happened during that time period. But I mean, remember, it's not for them. The world was like, hey, the Ten Commandments made money. We can definitely make a whole bunch of other epics, and that's going to make us money, surely. So obviously, it's not really the intention is not to bring religion here or to bring the worldview into for people who never who never decided to even think about it. It's just, oh yeah, it's money. It makes money. And nowadays, that's why you don't see it as often. I mean, but as you can see now, you have shows that are slowly bringing this stuff back. I mean, thanks to The Chosen, it's what now people are like, okay, the shows like in at least the silver screen industry is going and TV industry is going, hey, The Chosen made us a lot of money. Well, guess what? I know we can copy that. So somebody else does it. And then, you have novellas. That's how my parents are getting into it. So, yeah, I mean, overall, it's like, it's coming back. It has a good resurgence in the TV screens. But honestly, it's got to come back in film. It really does. It's got to. If you really want to see the parting of the Red Sea again, you got to watch that in the biggest screen possible, in my opinion.
You know what? Hold on. Just for the heck of it, I want to see if maybe they'll re-release the Ten Commandments, because seeing that on an IMAX screen, that's got to be a bucket.
I do think I'm not sure if this is correct or not. I don't know if they're showing the remake or the original, but I think Ben-Hur is going to be released sometime soon next month by Cinemark. But I could be wrong. I don't know which version.
Well, I hope hopefully it's the Hefton version, because what I want to talk about is the chariot scene real quick. So if you haven't seen this film, one, go watch it. Two, there's this, what this movie's famous for was this chariot scene.
Now I'm just reminded of the meme of the pastor when he's like, why? It's a funny meme.
Yeah.
It's like a TV evangelist is saying, why?
Why? No, but yeah, one of the most famous things about this film is this chariot scene. And and I don't mean, like, guys, I remember back then there was no CGI and stuff like that. These were like, if we want a horse in the scene, we need an actual horse. In this case, I'm thinking like 9 chariots of horses. And you can't really estimate that, because certain chariots need a certain amount of horses, depending on how big or the material of the chariots. But yeah, no, these were legit actual horse race scene. And somebody got hurt behind the scenes as well. There was a stunt person, because if you watch the movie, Judah and Masala that's racing. And in the movie, I think Masala's chariot breaks and he's trampled over by his own horses. Well, a stuntman did that, and they're trying to figure out a way to make sure like he didn't actually get trampled, but the stuntman actually did get trampled. He survived gratefully, because guys, getting trampled over horses, that's a lot of, like, I mean, no pun intended, that's a lot of horsepower. Horses are strong. They are strong. And getting trampled by like what, 9 horses? I'm assuming it's been a while. Yeah, you ain't coming back from that one.
No, I know.
Yeah, no, they're like legit. Like, people have died even getting kicked by a horse. Like, they are no joke. But anyway, yeah, the stuntman fortunately survived, but I thought it was the actor that actually got trampled over. Because legit, the makeup effects, guys, dude, I thought like he looked like he was trampled over. Even like the voice of like, do you think your mother and sister are dead? But a lot more dead, like, than what I put it at. But yeah, it's a very interesting, and what I want to talk about, and it's like the toughest thing, because throughout this film, like, there's frequent interactions with Jesus, though we don't see his face. We don't get that interaction of was Jesus and Ben-Hur again until Jesus is already carrying the cross. And it's interesting because it's like, I never thought much of it until I started like looking into the word. But like, everyone was like looking, like he was part of the crowd that was watching Jesus. And when Jesus passed by him, Judas said, I remember that man. He gave me water. And at one point, Jesus, like, he didn't have the physical ability to keep moving, which is when the man of Cyrene came. But when the Romans were looking for someone to help, Judah grabbed like this big old, like this pail of water to give to Jesus, as like trying to, as in a way of thanking him for the first time around. But the Romans interfered, because it's technically unlawful at that time to try to like aid a convicted criminal, I guess you can say. The reason why I say I didn't think much of it until now, when he says, I remember that man, he gave me water, was that he only interacted with him once, and it was years ago. We're talking about seeing Jesus again when he's already beaten and whipped. In the Bible, it says Jesus was beaten and whipped so hard that not even his friends recognized him, But I don't think people like actually cared. I think it's how I want to put it, as like maybe the aura or the spirit around Jesus is probably what made Judah remember him rather than the physical attributes. But, when he witnesses the crucifixion, he goes back home, and one of his friends was like, did he say anything? And he says, yeah, he said, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. And, and he, it's like one of those things people ask, what crime did this guy commit to be executed in that way, technically? But I don't know. I think it's very interesting. It's those moments like that gives me chills. And like I said, that's good script writing and good directing. And the actor who played Jesus in this movie, he wasn't an actor. He was an opera singer. And it was his only acting credit. And yeah, I think just not showing his face really adds a lot, unless you got anything else to say.
I mean, I would like to know that I wanted to mention it's a movie that I would like to rewatch. It's one of the out of the two that we just previously mentioned that I haven't actually watched in a very long time. I think the last time I watched it was maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. So it's something that I really do want to go get back into. It's always like I'm a guy who just likes physical media, so I'm keeping it short like that. So it's sweet, and it's kind of hard to look for one that I can find. I mean, I can always go and get it off of Amazon, but I'd like to go to actual places, support local businesses and whatnot. So it's difficult, and the journey's still going. But once I do find that copy, I mean, that's the first thing I'm gonna do is head on back. And to I guess end this off with, it's supposed to be coming out in March 29th, and I think April 1st in the second. Now it's funny because it says March 26th, like oh sorry, no, March 26th. It says Ben-Hur 2026, but the entire synopsis and even the poster itself is of the original. So I don't I think it's just Cinemark's error on their part, but I think it's the original because if the remake is in as long as 3 hours and something minutes, then it's gotta be the OG.
Yeah, because the remake, I think, is like just 2 hours, which that tells you they cut out so much.
Mm.
But anyway, I looked up the guy. His name is Claude Heater, the guy who played Jesus. But yeah, it's I don't have the VHS. I have the DVDs. But if I had the VHS, it would be one of those VHSs where it's a long movie, so they had to give you two VHSs.
Yeah.
Yes. And how I know that, like going back, I had Titanic on VHS and I had The Lord of the Rings on VHS. Both are over
Yeah.
both are over 3 hours long, and they give you two tapes. So that's how it goes. But yeah, Ben-Hur is a classic, timeless classic. It's one of those like Christian films that has a lot more of a Christian cast, especially back then. Like Charlton Heston was a Christian. I don't know about any of the other actors, to be honest with you, but it's like one of those movies that's like it's like one of those Christian movies that people were like, it's not run by a Christian studio, but it feels more like what a Christian movie should be. And there's nothing wrong with like the stuff that comes out on what is it, PureFlex or Angel Studios and stuff like that. But it's just that most of that can come off a little too preachy for a lot of us.
And unfortunately, it doesn't. The way I see it, if I was just a general common person, who didn't believe, or just was religious to that matter, yeah, I mean, it pushes people off, fortunately. And you have epics like Ben-Hur and the Prince of Egypt that anybody can sit down and watch and go, "Hey, I didn't know Christ was going to be mentioned here. Or I didn't actually know this was about the Exodus." But I mean, it grabs your attention. That's what it's meant to do. And Pureflix Films and Angel Studios has a lot of good bangers. Believe it or not, Pureflix has a lot of good bangers too. It's simply just if for the right audience. If you want to show it to somebody who's a non-believer, you're gonna have to be kind of picky on which one you want to show them.
Yeah. We're gonna take one more break right now. All right, and we're back. So it's no surprise what y'all think the big one that we're going to talk about is Passion of the Christ. Yeah, I was rewatching this earlier today, and bro, it's like I remember watching this like when my family got the DVD. To be honest with you guys, I didn't think much of it the first couple of times I saw it, and I think maybe it's because my 8-year-old mind wasn't really processing things too much. And I don't even think I was paying attention to it. But the older I get, the more into the word I try to get into. And then when I rewatched again, it's unsettling, like big time. Here's what I mean. I was eating lunch when I was watching this. And by the time I finished eating, I say I stopped eating at a perfect timing because that's when the flogging scene happened. When I rewatched that last year, oh man, it's hard. Let's put it this way. You knew Jesus was wept. And like, I thought, dude, I swear to you, I thought Mel Gibson was out of his mind, like creating these whips like this. But apparently that's literally whips were. And I'm like, dude, like if that was literally how he was wept, I mean, I couldn't imagine the actual pain. I mean, the actual pain of what those blades at the end of the whips. Let's put it this way. Like when I was talking about Jesus of Nazareth, they try to censor it because it was ABC, it was television. And this was 1976 when they were filming this. You know, they couldn't show like a lot of violence or blood back in those days, but you could still hear the sound of the whips and the pain Jesus was in.
You could
Even
even see the horses.
yeah, like even if the visuals had to be minimal, like you could understand the pain. This movie, on the other hand, with the Passion of the Christ, you see it all, and it's tough. Especially like there's a part where like he gets hit in the ribs, and that's even like painful to watch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like when I was talking about Pilate earlier, like Pilate here, like when the Pharisees were like, okay, so when Jesus was in front of Pilate and Pilate was like, what do y'all want? And the Pharisees were like, crucify him. You just see the look on Pilate's face. Because given crucifixion was gruesome back then. And keep in mind, whipping wasn't really part of the execution. The whipping was Pilate's way of making it minimal because Pilate did not want to execute him. He's like, you know what? We'll just have him flogged. And that's the punishment I'm going to give him because he doesn't deserve to get executed that way. Remember, Pilate had saw no fault in him. He didn't see what the Pharisees saw, but obviously in other reasons, Pilate wasn't Jew. And the Pharisees were like the Hebrew scholars and the religious leaders and stuff like that. So, and he was a Roman. So, you know, the Romans don't follow the customs, the Israelites and stuff like that. So even Pilate was like, you know, in any adaptation you'll look into, even in the Bible, he's like, none of this is really like a Roman problem. Even though they say if we let him go, it's going to be a Roman problem. But he says this is more of like y'all's laws, not really Rome's laws. I know there's a lot to dig into, but it's pretty much he just didn't want to have Jesus executed at all, is what it is. And even Pilate's wife told him, like, this is a gifted man. But the worst part about that flogging scene is Mary was there. Both Marys were there. And I remember, like, I'm not crying. No, I remember, like, one time we were watching this and my sister walked away and she said, could not be my son. And for the record, like her and my brother-in-law don't have kids yet. Like she means like, it could not be my son. It couldn't be anybody's son. Couldn't be two of our friends who just had a baby like a couple of months ago. Couldn't be their son. Couldn't be anybody's. It's just that when you know the story, Mary knew from the beginning. She was told that your child will be a lamb. And she knew what that meant because during Passover, the lambs would be sacrificed to God, as in, you know, honoring what happened back in the times of Egypt when they sacrificed the lamb to put over door frames. So when she heard that your child will be a lamb of the world, she knew what that meant. But it's like she knew, but it's like that doesn't mean she was prepared. That doesn't mean like she was ready for that to happen. But to the filmmaking aspect of it all, first, I know Mel Gibson gets into a lot of heat. And I don't care, okay? Look, you know me, I don't get into the politics of anything at all when it comes to film and actors and actresses and stuff like that. Because if I base that off of everything, I will literally watch like or listen to nothing.
Yeah.
And if you say like, I don't want to watch it because Mel Gibson's not a good guy, watch The Passion of the Christ and then you realize what is a good guy really.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot that happened. Apparently lightning struck the set.
I think it struck it twice.
Really?
I think it struck Jim Caviezel like twice.
Dang. I thought they said lightning never struck twice.
That's just a myth.
Oh, man. Okay, but there's that. Jim Caviezel, I think he had an allergic reaction to the makeup. And not only that, there was points where like film days would go on forever to the point where like they couldn't even like say like, we don't have time for you to even take the makeup off. So you're going to have to wear it to the next day. And I think he even dislocated his arm during the crucifixion scene and hurt his back. If you ever like watch the full credits, they literally tell you the amount of EMTs that were on set. And this film wasn't even filmed in the US. I think it was filmed in Italy or somewhere in the middle, maybe in the Middle East. I don't remember. I just know it was a predominantly non-American cast. Jim Caviezel, I think, was the only American actor like in that entire film because everybody else was either like European or Middle Eastern. A lot of Italians. And I know like there's a new movie coming out. I'll definitely watch it. I know like the actors are different and stuff like that, but I'm still curious. Do you remember what it was like the very first time you ever actually watched this movie?
I was gonna say like first time we watched it, my brother and I had gotten it on DVD. Our parents had watched it beforehand and they never wanted us to watch it until we were old enough. So when we finally got DVD, that's when we were old enough. So we were able to watch through it because at the time, the only movies of Jesus that we could watch were, of course, those that weren't as explicit as this film was. So when we finally got to see this, I mean, when we got to the flogging and all the way up until he is crucified, it was tough, man. A lot of times we paused and we actually like, either one of us got out of the room or the other, and we were like, "Hey, let's pause it real quick," and we just and waited for hours. I think we ultimately finished watching the film after like maybe 6 hours, because we just had to pause. We just couldn't keep going and seeing it because it's just wild. I mean, all of that happening, and apparently Jim did actually get flogged. I mean, they were always told that, hey, don't hit him accidentally, make it look like it hit him. But unfortunately, how can you do that? I mean, it's kind of sometimes it's impossible to kind of know, hey, okay, I got him in the back, or it looks like I did, because movie magic. No, he did get flogged a couple of times. And so knowing that a person was able to go through that, again, only a small tidbit. But what we ended up seeing in this film is still not exactly how you could imagine that Christ went through, because this is probably 1/10 of God allowing us to see what his son went through, just 1/10. And so when you see that, it's in front of you, it is flexible, and you get time to think about it, because you sit there and go, how could somebody do that? How could somebody choose to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to take this? But see, that's what it is. No other God or idol, right? No other idol, no other mentions in any religion would do the thing that Christ did. So it's, sorry, I didn't mean to go on a tangent, but that's how we first viewed it. And we were like shocked. And if you've never seen this film out there who really wants to know about this, take your time. No one's going to be mad at you. Take your time with it, especially when you get to these scenes. Pause, take a moment out, think about it maybe. If not, take some time to get yourself together, not to be so anxious, not to be so worried about it, because it happened. So know that the one true loving God he's literally here. He died, but he had to die to fulfill the actual promise that the Old Testament and all of the stories kept saying. And he resurrected. And that's the one thing that makes him different from every single other religion.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those, like, it's a tough to get through. It's like if you ever watch like anything that says the toughest movies to watch through, The Passion of the Christ will be on that list because of how real it looks. And it gets sad. It even gets scary at some points. Like when you see the devil in this movie, and the devil, I believe, is androgynous. I think that's how you pronounce it, which means genderless. Because what that basically means is like a character or a person it's almost close to, and I'm not an advocate of this, but it almost looks like the non-binary term. But the devil is always been seen as like not human. And when they cast, I forgot the actress's name, but oh my gosh, she terrified me.
Funny enough, see, I saw clips of the novella with them, and the way they portray the devil is almost similar. Like they have an actual character, an actor or actress, I'm not entirely sure which, because the person is androgynous as well and is clothed in dark. And the only difference here is that they put a voiceover on the voice. So it's not like you can tell, it has a mix of women and men. So it's just a kind of, not to label that as gender.
Yeah. And again, like many adaptations of Jesus will, fictionalize stuff. Like we know Judas was full of guilt. He wasn't really harassed by the devil, but I think that's what guilt really is to me. It's very interesting, like especially when you see like when he's like being attacked by the kids and the devil's around him. And then like, I don't know what it was, like a donkey or something that's decomposing right next to him. And that's like the moment he decides to, hang himself on that tree.
You're talking about Judas, right?
Yeah, Judas. It's like the acting is actually really spot on. Especially like when it also came from Peter, who denied him at that scene. He didn't even want Mary to like comfort him because he's telling Mary, no, I betrayed it, or not betrayed, but I denied him.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much. And it's like every time, I don't know why, it's like I almost get teary eyed. In any adaptation where Jesus looks at John with Mary and he says, John, she be your mother, and then mother, he be your son. That's just basically Jesus telling John, just take care of her when I'm not here. Yeah, it's a tough one, guys. It's like, I'm not going to get preachy here, especially because, like, yes, guys, I'm aware I cuss a lot and I've said some things, and I watch a movie called Sinners.
Same here.
I'm aware of all of that, guys. I'm aware of all of that because this isn't really a Christian podcast, though we do talk about Christianity a lot more on this podcast. But if you do want to get some good Christian content, one, I recommend The Lord's Giant. Hold that thought. Ben, if you're listening to this, Ben's The Lord's Giant. Ben, if you're listening to this, you have an open invitation within the next couple of months after this comes out. Who's that puppet guy we keep watching?
Dylan, or I mean, the name of it is like Dylan's puppet.
I think so. Um, yeah, y'all should, or is it Dixon?
Oh, I think it's Dixon. Yeah. Hold on, I think it's
It's
Dixon. No, no,
Dinks the puppet.
Jinx. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, Dinks the puppet. Y'all should check that out. Like YouTube, like Alan Parr, y'all should definitely check out Off the Curb Ministries with, I think his name is John Kirby or Joe Kirby. He's from the UK. Plenty of them out there. What Do You Meme? It's a really good one as well. Like they have some good content, and I get so much great learning from all of these folks. Yeah, because it's like I'm not perfect. I don't mean to be preachy and stuff like that. That doesn't mean I'm not going to talk about Jesus either. You know, like I said, I'm not proud of when I cuss or anything. I'm like behind the scenes, even long before the podcast ever happened. I mean, I was a terrible person. Like I would be immature. I cuss more a lot back then. I was sexually immoral. I like all that. And then God came to me. Now, yes, the things I say I shouldn't, and that's something I need to work on. And that's just me being real with you guys. But going with Jelly Roll said at the Grammys, it's like Jesus wants a relationship with people. And I know this part is like it turns people off. I understand that. But if you're willing to listen to other religions, at least have the decency to hear from us. And like, it's not only that, it's even people who claim themselves to be Christians to even be turned off by this. And it's tough. It's like, I don't like calling people out, but like, we need to call people out. I'm not going to call people out by name, but like, y'all know me, I'm not a fan of doxing and stuff like that. But I feel like most of us, especially in today's political climate, like with ICE and with the war in the US and stuff like that, I'm just going to go back to what Pastor Ed said. Pastor Ed, the pastor of CBC Church, when Charlie Kirk died, and he didn't want to talk about it, especially on the politics of it all. And I'm okay if a church tries to stay away from political stuff. If they have a thought on marriage and, being pro-life and stuff like that, they can talk about it if it doesn't get too political. Like I talk about where I stand with all of this stuff. I just don't make it political. But to my point, he says like, I don't care if you're on the Republican side or if you're on the Democrat side. It says, I care if you're on the Lord's side. And that's also me too. And tons of people are going to be like, no, I am on the Lord's side. But I feel like a lot of us are more of like, we're like the modern day zealots, And zealots were like rebellious Israelites back in the days. Barabbas was a zealot. Most of us, we pretty much are Barabbas.
Oh yeah. I guess didn't mean to take it from you here, but just to kind of help you out. I mean, it's bringing it up. It's like Barabbas is a representation of all of humanity. Like we do things immorally wrong, unethically. And this is not, I'm not trying to get preachy about it. This is just taking it from a moral standpoint. Yeah, we do a lot of things that we ourselves are guilty of. And sometimes we keep on doing it. Sometimes we do it once in a while and we'll sit there and be disappointed because we thought we were better than that. But that's what it is ultimately. Like if Pilate had told the crowds, who did you want to be set free? Barabbas, a zealot, or Christ? And humanity itself chose Barabbas because the earth loves the earth. People in here tend to, I know you get the phrase, love yourself, right? But I mean, yeah, it's good to feel appreciative and to know that you can exist here and you have a purpose. But it's like, you got to know, where did it come from? Who's the one giving you that purpose? And so Christ ultimately, that's why I love The Passion, because this scene right here is probably my favorite scene of the whole film, is when Barabbas is free and he's all like, he kisses the soldier, right? And he's like, yeah, I'm free or whatever. And he just takes one look at him. And Christ is just no expression, no emotion, more simply of just taking, the only, not expressing any words. By that, I mean, the only emotion he expresses is a small, gentle smile, because he wanted to know that, hey, you think the people chose you to be free, but I gave you that freedom. I gave you the freedom to make the choices that you are here now and how you got to that point. And now I'm making what you should have been punished for. I'm going to take it in your place. And so it's like humanity. He saw humanity. He saw the good in humanity. He said, this is God's perfect creation that became imperfect. and now I'm here to rectify it. So it's just an amazing thing. Like in the word itself, it's amazing, and then just seeing it visually through that film is just like eye dropping.
Yeah, really, I have no words, but it's also like, you watch his Sermon on the Mount, even in the Passion of the Christ. The one thing that's like, people are like, oh, it's like, I love Jesus and stuff like that. Again, I'm not going to call people out and stuff, but I know most of y'all and I seen y'all social media accounts. I'm not trying to like pass judgment on y'all, but that doesn't mean like I'm not going to call out the hypocrisy. That's one of the reasons, guys, why I'm not a political person. Is because people lean too far into either too far right and too far left, and not many people like want to call out the hypocrisy. I'm not trying to cuss, but I'm going to say it cleanly as possible. They don't want to call out the hypocrisy, but I do. Just because like you're on what is the good side, that doesn't mean you're a good person or you're on God's side either. The other thing is that like you're always saying like Jesus called us all to love our friends and neighbors, and again, given today's political climate and stuff, y'all forget that Jesus also taught y'all to love your enemies as well, right? And again, I know that's a difficult thing to do, but it says if one man should strike you on the cheek, turn the other cheek. We are been told to hate our enemies, but I say unto you, love your enemies. And I took that seriously, like I did. Because it's like if I died at a moment in time and I see someone I didn't like someone I full on hated, and they're in heaven before me, and I know Jesus is going to say, if I forgave them, how come you didn't? That's why I started taking that so much literally. Like, look, I don't like things that are going on. I'm not a big fan of the president or the agents. But in the end, like when you take the pedestal off, when you take the uniforms off and all that, they're nothing but just a man. A man, believe it or not, that were created by God. And it's nobody else to judge but God. Even though I do think we should have some judgment. And when people say, like, only God can judge, I feel like you're forgetting what God judges in the first place. So that's why I say I'm not afraid to like call people's hypocrisy and all that. And if you want to have a conversation, then we'll have a conversation. But I'm also saying I'm not perfect either. Like, I'm not better than you. I know that's a lot to take in, but I just want people to know that we're not all different. It's like you take the pedestals off, you take the uniforms off, you look people outside the screen. We're all just human and we're all flawed. And if you don't think we're flawed, then you have to look within yourself. But like I said, I don't mean to be preachy. I'm aware of the things I say. I can promise you I won't stop cussing after this. Now, if I do end up stop cussing, that would be a miracle, praise Jesus. But that's just me, guys. This is the most religious it'll ever get until whatever we'll talk about in the future. But that's all I wanted to say. Like this season, it was just a lot to handle. Like after with Charlie Kirk and then things that happen on from then on. But, I wanted this to be an escape. And I'll still talk about movies and music and stuff like that. But this is the only like Christ-like message you'll probably end up hearing. But like I said, all of those Christian content creators, I really recommend y'all should check out. But since I know you had an image that you want to talk about before we leave.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and share it. But for anybody out there, that I will say, I was talking to Gilbert earlier about it. Once you see the image, it may remind you of a certain artist back in Italy in like the, I guess, late 15th, 16th century. And his name was Caravaggio, not Rembrandt. I got the two confused. But if you know who Caravaggio is, his paintings have gone through a lot of reception and often seen in a lot of art history books, specifically like the ones of the head of Medusa or David and Goliath. I mean, those two are pretty among his most infamous works. So when I share it, it's more, you'll be surprised because you'll think that it just looks exactly like his work. Let's see, I don't know if y'all can see that, but this is the Mocking of Christ, or sometimes referred to as Christ with a Mocking Soldier. This was actually painted by artist Carl Bloch, who was Danish. And this was not an actual 16th or 17th century painting. This was honestly recently, when you think about it in terms of the century. It was done in 1880. So, yeah, I mean, like you could put it right there and say, well, that's amazing. But this really did speak out to me. I was watching a bunch of videos over the past couple of months, And this was recommended to me, as a matter of fact. And it just had the image, just has the thumbnail is this image with the words. I forget what the question was, but it was a question. And as I watched the video, this person is introducing us to the image and sharing about what it means to him. And as we know, art has many different interpretations. And so this is my way of seeing this painting and what it says to me. I mean, as you can see, this is like the when Jesus was arrested and was based on the image just after he had been flogged. So he was, as you see in the word, at least the Gospels, the Roman soldiers had mocked him, they flogged him, and they dressed him up as a king because he was, as they said, the king of the Jews. But of course, that's not what he claimed to be. He claimed to be the king of a kingdom that is not of this earth. So they couldn't understand that. And they just thought, okay, this guy's crazy. So, they tortured him essentially and they gave him his crown of thorns. And here you see it as plain as view. Christ is just staring at you, staring at the viewer. So if you are seeing this now or in the future, or if you ever come across this painting in the location that it currently is in, if this to me feels as though the Lord is just staring beyond this painting, that he's there looking and asking you, what are you seeing? And so what I see is this person, the soldier here towards the left, he seems like he's like mocking him. But here's the thing, what is he saying to him? Could it be that he's mocking his supposed hierarchy of what his name's supposed to be? Or is he simply disgusted at him and views him as any other regular criminal that sometimes they just torture for fun because that's their job? And unfortunately, as humanity can be evil sometimes, a lot of these guys get a kick out of punishing people. So you don't know what he could be saying here. And that could mean a whole bunch of things. The same thing here with, I believe, honestly, the palm branch that he's holding, the stick. I mean, a lot of people have said that this is Jesus holding that as his scepter, whereas I sometimes see it as the Roman soldier is still egging him on. He has that, and that's the thing he used to flog him. But it's different to the viewer, right? So it could go both ways. But the way I'm seeing this here is I don't think there's any other kind of image that I've seen. This is only one image, and there's plenty of other images depicting this scene, depicting anything about Jesus. And as I see this, I don't see an Americanized version of Jesus. I see an individual, I see a living, loving being decided to come down to this earth and to simply choose to give himself up because he could not see the creation that he created go to waste. He couldn't see this. He couldn't see all of humanity go and say, I feel extremely, extremely bad. He couldn't just think and say, it's just worthless. I can wipe everybody out and I move on to the next, start over again. Like how dinosaurs got extinct, etc. Point being, just by him in his image, staring at the viewer, staring at us, is to show that he literally loves you, that he did this because he wanted to. Much like he gave us free will to choose what our actions make of us, he chose to do this. Because it could have been anybody. Could have been your family. Could have been the children that you have now. It could have been you. But we know that none of us could do it because we would all chicken out. I mean, why would we want to get tortured? Nobody wants to go through that. And I'm sure Christ himself didn't want to go through it initially. But he did it because he loves us. And this image is just something that I look at now, not only to remind myself, because again, just like how Gilbert mentioned, none of us are perfect beings, myself included. I would love to stop cussing every now and then. And it works. And I'm glad to be in a position because I believe the Lord is able to give me a position to where I have to watch myself in what I say, especially when I was teaching. It was a great way to kind of help me practice to know, hey, you can't be cussing in front of students. You can't cuss in front of your peers or colleagues. So it helped a lot. And every so often, it's more of I regulate my cussing sometimes at home. But you see, I don't want to be doing that either, not in front of my family. So I'd be very happy and I would feel extremely blessed to know that if I could stop cussing, I can. And I know I can. It's just hard because it's hard to break habits, as they say, but it's not impossible. Through him, all things are possible. And so I'm very happy to have ended, at least to hopefully end the conversation here. And again, I like to let people know this will most likely be, like as Gilbert said, most likely be the only time we ever get to express the belief in what we believe is to be the true God, who has experienced both, who goes across time and space. Time and space doesn't exist for him. He's beyond that. And the natural world is what he made. It's the physical evidence of what he did and what he has done and will keep doing. And I hope that people who see this and has heard all of us, I heard both of us talk today. If you really do want to give up your life for him, it's always anytime. He's always there for you. He's always listening. Just as he is here in this painting, he's here with us, and he's not going to leave us. But
Yeah. That's literally like not a bad way, not just to end this episode, but to end the season. Like, yeah, guys, I'm just gonna say this from a different perspective as well. Something I also learned in church: don't let the news and social media also dictate your mind. And his words also means don't let strangers dictate your mind as well. That make you alienate, friends and family, because this stuff is what we need. Like when we say y'all need Jesus, we're not playing around. Like I do believe we're approaching the end times. I've doubted for a while, but I mean, like they literally said, you're going to hear stories of wars and rumors of wars and the amount of false prophets. It's like this is stuff that I can't ignore anymore. But all I can do is just continue to talk, and I don't know what's going to happen once this season is over, if we have a world any longer. And if we do while the next season is going on, then it's also not waste time. Maybe the last thing I can say right now is to end this season. I can do this way. Is one, just say, first of all, rest in peace, Chuck Norris. Lastly, to end this season, I'm just going to say the last words of Christ. Well, the last words of Christ, and then my usual ending. And that is, Father, in your hands, I offer you my spirit. It is accomplished. Thank you all for this season, guys. You guys have a great night, day, morning, whenever you're listening to this. We're ending the season now.
have a good night, everybody, and God bless.
God bless. To quote Ben, God bless, my friends. Hi, if you like our content and want to get more content, please follow us on Instagram at Tough Love Pictures, along with our YouTube under Tough Love Pictures.